can't imagine what this place would have been like if I hadn't found you here.
Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen was the series finale of MASH. Over 1/3 of the entire United States tuned in to watch what would be a landmark television event. The episode is one emotional roller coaster after another, and has likely the most iconic scene in scripted television history. Almost 40 years later, it is still widely agreed upon by critics and audiences to be the greatest ending to any series of all time. And then you have whatever the actual these endings were. The following is a list of television shows that arguably got screwed over because of how they wrapped up the story. Yes, there are so many lists about worst series finales, but this is going to be a little bit different. These are shows that were beloved by audiences, but given incredibly unceremonious endings either by choice or by circumstance. The show's ending was so tainted that it left a bad taste in our mouths. So let's cleanse our palate and proceed with 10 sitcoms that deserved better conclusions. Just one rule before I begin, this list will consist of sitcoms only. As much as I want to put The Sopranos in here, it doesn't belong. Besides, I think only crazy people consider The Sopranos to be a sitcom. Also, most of the entries on this list will address series finales, either intended or unintended. Either way, it was a conclusion, and that's what this list is about. My list, my rules. Number 10, Scrubs. Back in the 2000s, I couldn't go anywhere without people trying to run me down to talk about how awesome last night's episode of Scrubs was. So what happened? Scrubs has the dubious distinction of being a show that had not one, not two, but 3 series finales. The first series finale almost feels like it was created on the fly, as it and The Office were replaced quickly by Celebrity Apprentice during the 2007-2008 writer's strike. When the show was moved to ABC for an impromptu 8th season, it had a second finale, before being renewed for a 9th season, where it too had another finale. Throwing around such a beloved show like a hot potato can really show how messy the world of television can be. Number 9. Alf. The first of several series on this list that were ending their last season on a cliffhanger, only to find out that they were going to be canceled anyway. But Alf might be the most egregious. In the final shot, the officers have him surrounded, and that's it. No more series. 6 years later, after Alf had become kind of a parody of the era, Project Alf was created as a means of wrapping up the story. It was a complete departure from the series, did not star the Tanner family, and just didn't feel like it fit in canon. Even more bizarre, the series wasn't released on home video until 2005, 15 years after the original series ended. Number 8. Gilligan's Island. We just couldn't leave well enough alone, could we, little buddy? Years after the end of the original series was canceled with the gang still stranded, Gilligan's Island had a satisfying conclusion with the made-for-TV movie Rescue from Gilligan's Island, and then continued the story with a second movie, The Castaways of Gilligan's Island, taking the story somewhat back to their original island in a new capacity. Weird flex, but okay, it works. Then, for a third movie, the Harlem Globetrotters are forced to land on the island and must step up to defeat the evil J.J. Pearson, who has come to raid the island for an element named Supremium by defeating a team of robots.
Everybody got that?
With Tina Louise long out of the picture and Jim Backus valiantly appearing although suffering from Parkinson's, this movie was just taking it too far. Thankfully, there were no more after this one. Number 7. Family Matters. Urkel goes to space. Next. Number 6. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. This was another show that might not have been the finale that they wanted, but it was the one that we got, and it was promoted very heavily. So was it any good? In this episode, essentially the entire family that we have learned to love for 6 seasons have gone their own ways and have scattered across the country. And the one character that leaves the biggest doubt as to his future in California is Will, the central character to the show. We know that everyone else is going to do just fine, except for him. Also, with the cameo appearances of the Jeffersons as well as Philip Drummond and Arnold from Different Strokes, does that mean that all of these shows belong in the same universe? Probably not, but it is a legit question. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was a top tier show that deserved a far less ambiguous ending. Number 5, Roseanne. Pick your poison. Do you want to discuss the original series finale or do you want to discuss the continuation? They're both absurd. The ninth and then final season of Roseanne started out fairly happily with Dan returning home after suffering a heart attack the season prior. Then Roseanne wins the lottery and becomes a multimillionaire overnight. That's when the show goes totally outer limits, bouncing back and forth between exaggerated stories to overdramatic stories to flat out nonsensical stories. But in the end, as it turns out, it was all Roseanne's book that she was writing. That's right, Season 9 didn't exist. Or take the last episode of the continuation. Roseanne was let go in real life after making several bizarre Twitter comments that drew some negative attention. Roseanne's character was killed off, and now the show is known as The Connors. Either way, it is a complete shame, because this series broke every cycle, and because of nonsense in both eras, the show will maintain this cloud over it now. It's kind of infuriating, really. Number 4, My Name is Earl. The beloved comedy series was canceled after 4 seasons in 2009, and nobody really seems to know why. The finale of Season 4 even presented a to-be-continued cliffhanger graphic, only for the show to not be continued. Even after several attempts to move the show to a different network, there was no success in seeing if Earl would ever finish his list. Nothing about the cancellation makes sense. Nothing. It is a complete mystery, and we may never know the real answer. Number 3, Seinfeld. Love it or hate it, it is almost impossible not to discuss Seinfeld today without bringing up how you felt about this finale. Larry David himself penned the final episode in which the gang is arrested for violating Good Samaritan laws. They have 9 years worth of names from their lives to come back and testify against them in court, and in the end, they're all sent to prison together. The episode takes such a drastic turn from the rest of the series, but yet how else could a show of this nature possibly end? Face it, if you're a Seinfeld fan, you still talk about this, and I guess that's really what matters in the end. I mean, it's a lot more appropriate at parties than talking about the contest. Number 2, 2.5 Men. Apparently, the only way you can end a series with such an insane real-life downfall is to essentially murder it. 2.5 Men was murdered. The show ended with one original man. The other 1.5 men didn't quite make it. After Season 8, Charlie Harper was killed off after Charlie Sheen's real-life mental health crisis. And then Jake is written off after Season 10 after Angus T. Jones rage quit the show due to his newfound religious views. So with the show needing a satisfying conclusion, it is talked about that Charlie is still alive, and a long-expected return of Charlie Sheen the actor was expected. So in the final scene, you see him walk up to the door about to come home after the 3+ year hiatus like nothing ever happened, when, yup, a piano falls on him. The camera pans left to executive producer Chuck Lorre, who breaks the fourth wall, says, "Winning" to the viewers, and then too is crushed by another piano. That's it. End scene. Goodbye. Good night. And the number 1 show that really deserved a better conclusion, How I Met Your Mother. Suit up, because this one just got everyone I knew in, shall I say, a bit of a tizzy. After 9 years, we learn that future Ted has revealed that his kid's mother died of a terminal disease, and they were only married for 4 years. What makes this incredibly risky ending so interesting is that there was a happier backup ending taped where the mother continued to live and could have aired if necessary. While one may argue that the original story could be more true to life, it's also argumentative that it essentially extends a giant middle finger to the first 9 years of the series. Either way, this show now has a legacy of ending in such a twisted way that it overshadows the entire series. Some are going to find it great, some are going to find it awful, but dare I even say some people may find the end of the story a legend, and I hope you're not lactose intolerant because the rest of the answer is